Hello, my name is Grace Wills, and today I will be talking about the distribution and reproduction of the swallow-tailed kite in Arkansas. The swallow-tailed kite, whose scientific name is Illinoides forficatus, is a rare bird in Arkansas whose populations have declined over the years. I've worked with Dr. Wren Tummelson to determine the distribution and dates of migration, and our data consists of records verified and published by the Arkansas Audubon Society, the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, also known as eBird.org, and the reports on the University of Arkansas's discussion list, known as RBird-L. The swallow-tailed kite is a raptor named for its long and deeply forked tail, which distinguishes it from other kites. As we can see here, the head, neck, and underside are all white, along with its axillaries and the anterior part of the underwing. However, the back, upper wing coverts, and the flight feathers here are all black. It's also important to note that this species is monomorphic, meaning the sexes do not differ in appearance. Citizen reports of the swallow-tailed kite often coincide with sightings of its closest relative in Arkansas, the Mississippi kite, scientific name Actinia mississippiensis. The Arkansas swallow-tailed kites have been reported foraging with flocks of 4 to 25 Mississippi kites. And while these species are closely related, it's important to notice their physical differences. For example, the head, neck, and underparts of the Mississippi kite are gray, while you'll notice the same parts of the swallow-tailed kite are white. Additionally, the back of the Mississippi kite is a bluish gray, and you'll notice here that its flight feathers are a reddish brown, whereas the swallow-tailed kite is all black. Of course, the other distinguishing feature of the swallow-tailed kite from the Mississippi kite is that really defined forked tail, which the Mississippi kite is lacking. This map is showing us the distribution of swallow-tailed kites based on the records we compiled, and the dots are indicating locations of observation. These birds tend to become summer residents in marshland habitats near river systems and their tributaries, and this map is exhibiting just that. If you take a look in this region right here, you will notice that there is a linear sort of trend going on, and that is actually following the Arkansas River. And so that is a great example of areas where you would maybe find the swallow-tailed kite trying to nest for the summer. Most sightings record only 1 to 2 individuals. However, good habitats are often revisited each year. For example, Arkansas County, as you can see right here, has a bunch of dots on it indicating observations. Specifically, the Dale Bumpers White River National Wildlife Refuge gets a lot of observations in the summer months. Also, Miller County at the Sulphur River Wildlife Management Area will get a lot of observations, and you can see right here that there's plenty of dots indicating those observations. The most birds observed at one time was 8 birds, and that was also in Miller County at the Sulphur River Wildlife Management Area, and that was on the 11th of July of 2020. The map shown here depicts which counties have records of sightings as well as the time frame in which the sightings occurred. The first observation of the swallow-tailed kite in Arkansas occurred in Calhoun County on the 7th of April, 1986. And you will notice here when we look at Calhoun County that this is the only time period in which the sighting of the swallow-tailed kite has occurred, at least according to the records that we have compiled. The number of sightings reported per time frame has gradually increased over the years. From 1986 to 1991, the swallow-tailed kite was only reported in 2 counties. However, from 2017 to 2020, the species sightings were reported in 17 counties. Examination of this historical distribution is showing that the longest term of continued occurrence is in the east central region of Arkansas. So that would be this region right here. And again, that is following the trend of them making summer homes near river systems and their tributaries, as this is the region where you would find the Arkansas River. Additionally, Arkansas County has the longest consecutive time period of reported sightings. Beginning in 1997 all the way up to 2020, there has been reoccurring sightings of this swell-tailed kite, and that is going back to them returning to what they deem as good habitats. Also, the dot on this map is indicating counties in which successful nesting has been observed, and you will notice that the successful nesting has been observed in Miller County, which, as I mentioned earlier, is a county where they have found what they deem as a good habitat, and that is the Sulphur River Wildlife Management Area. Upon examination of the data compiled, we were able to determine the monthly chronological frequency of the reported observations of the swell-tailed kite in Arkansas. Sightings of the species begin in March and end in September, as exhibited by this graph. The earliest reported date of observation occurred in Drew County on the 25th of March 2020, while the last bird sighting was reported on September 16th. It's also important to note that the distribution of sightings is bimodal. As we can see here, there's a peak in both May and August. However, it is unclear whether the peak of sightings in August is due to new birds entering Arkansas from a different area, or if it's migrating individuals documented in multiple counties. This graph is showing us the total number of counties each month in Arkansas from which reports of the swallow-tailed kites originated. Examination of this data is showing us that there is a peak in August, as we can see here, just as there was a peak in August in the graph on the previous slide. Interestingly enough, of the 35 counties with reported sightings, 20 only had sightings from August to September, which are the months of the expected southern migration period. Documentation of nesting by the swallow-tailed kite rarely occurred in Arkansas from the late 1800s to the 1940s. This decline in population is likely due to loss of marshy areas with emergent vegetation, which is the species' preferred nesting habitat. Since then, very little documentation of nesting has occurred. As you can see in this chart, from 2001 to 2009, 5 nests were detected during a study conducted in the White River National Wildlife Refuge. However, none of these nests were able to produce fledglings, and therefore they were all deemed unsuccessful. Successful nesting in Arkansas did not occur until July of 2020 in the Sulphur River Wildlife Management Area, when adults were seen feeding fledglings. This occurrence is considered the first successful nesting in Arkansas since 1890. If you'll remember back to a previous slide, I have mentioned both the White River National Wildlife Refuge and the Sulphur River Wildlife Management Area before, as areas where reoccurring observations of the swallow-tailed kite are taking place. Therefore, it does make sense that we are seeing these nesting attempts and now successes because both areas have been deemed as good habitats by the species. This species nesting is commonly observed in dominant trees along the edge of wetlands. Additionally, they prefer to nest near the tops of the trees so the adults have easy access to the nest. However, it is the same concept that allows easy access for predators as well, such as hawks, raptors, and owls. And so that can also be a reason why we aren't seeing so many successful nesting attempts. A study in the White River National Wildlife Refuge found that these nests are often in oak trees and that their composition may consist of hardwood, sticks, and twigs, and occasionally Spanish moss. Citizen reports have included comments about seeing the swallow-tailed kite feeding on dragonflies, caterpillars, a small rodent, and foraging over a field with a large grasshopper population. Knowledge of the species' diet can also be useful in understanding their habitat preference and where they are more likely to nest. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below, and I'll be sure to answer them as soon as possible. I would also like to thank the many bird enthusiasts who systematically collect and report observations of birds, as well as Dan Scheinman for his efforts in updating the eBird database for Arkansas birds, which made this project much easier to conduct.